Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good evening. I'm indeed very honored and privileged to have been asked to address you here this evening at the Chamber's 8th Annual Induction Ceremony. Let me take this opportunity to congratulate this year's inductees, David Inglefield, representing his late father, Jeff Inglefield, a pioneer in the insurance industry; Ron Harford, who has contributed to making Republic Bank one of the largest, strongest, and most profitable banks in the region; and Joe Esau, the financial guru who has probably done more mergers and acquisitions than anybody around. Please join me in congratulating them. I'm sure that you would agree with me when I say that we live in exciting times. Times so pregnant with opportunities and promises. In this so-called global village, our market is no longer TNT or indeed the Caribbean, but the world is our marketplace. We are limited today only by our imagination. This is the first time in history that our heritage is no longer our destiny. Our dreams are no longer fantasies, but possibilities. This new economic era is sometimes called terra incognita, a world of chaos and uncertainty, a world of accelerating change, where markets will be merciless and competition fierce, where small corporations will challenge giant conglomerates for global supremacy, where you'll either be doing business in real time or you'll be out of business. You can be great at what you're doing today and out of business tomorrow. Remember not too long ago when we all used to be using Motorola phones. And then came a Finnish rubber company, Nokia. Now, Research in Motion's BlackBerry, Apple iPhones 5, Samsung Galaxy 3 have all taken over market share. We don't have to go international. Ask yourself today, where's Kirpalani's? And more recently, CL Financial. The question is, can we survive? Can we survive in this global village as a small island economy with relatively small business in a global context? The answer is yes, because nobody owns the future. The future is up for grabs. Nobody has a proprietary right to the future. The question before us is, how do we invent our future? To do this, we need to change our style of leadership. We must move away from 20th century leadership to 21st century leadership. Let's face it, we are all RDAs. And unless we retool and reinvent ourselves, we will become TDAs. We are all rapidly depreciating assets. Just as how we depreciate a car or machinery over 5 to 7 years, if we don't retool and reinvent ourselves, we will become totally depreciated assets. We have to move away from leadership by cup to leadership by ace. We must move away from control, order, and predict to acknowledge, empower, and acknowledge, create, and empower. We must acknowledge that none of us is as great as all of us. We must create an environment where we can unleash the hidden potential of our people, and then we must empower them. Make no bones about it. We cannot enter the 21st century through incrementalism, doing more of the same. We have to compete for industry foresight. We must be different. We must be revolutionary. We must understand that success in the past is no guarantee for success in the future. That the future will bear no resemblance to the past. We must learn to think out of the box. We must learn to question everything. We must learn to develop as one of our core competencies radical innovation. We must create an environment that facilitates change rather than an environment that acts as an anchor to change. And we must understand that failure is not necessarily a bad thing, but that we must fail in order to succeed. It is in this context that I would like to address you this evening on the evolution to excellence. I've been asked to highlight some of the critical factors that made Jaleel successful, sharing with you some lifelong stories, and in addition, giving advice to young, aspiring entrepreneurs. To simplify it, I would like to share with you 3 lifelong lessons, the 3 Ds: destiny, dreams, and distance. I'm sure a lot of you all would have seen the movie Slumdog Millionaire. Can you remember how that movie ended and what was said? It was said, it was written. I stand before you all here this evening as a so-called successful businessman, but I never dreamt of being a businessman. From the tender age of 12, seeing my sister suffered and eventually succumbed at the age of 18 years, I knew I wanted to be a medical doctor. So I studied the sciences, went to the University of the West Indies, and then the University of London, graduated as a medical doctor, and then started working at the San Francisco General Hospital. And then the game changer took place. One day I was having lunch with my mom, and she asked me to come into her family's business and to revive the name of her father. You see, my grandfather was almost 80 years old, and none of his sons took a liking to the business. So not having help and any succession, he decided to sell the business. My mother bought the business from him just to preserve his legacy and to continue the family tradition. A couple of years afterwards, he passed away. So the business was on autopilot and was rapidly deteriorating. So this is when my mother asked me to join the business. So I said to my mom, look, I'm a medical doctor. I don't know anything about business. She looked at me and said, you can do it. Some of you all who may know me understand how close I was to my mom. God bless her soul. So I said yes, okay, not understanding the challenge that laid ahead. I remember one day going with our then accountant, John Hunt and Associates, to Republic Bank San Fernando, and I think the manager was at that time Fred Malaloop. Ron, you probably would know Fred. They both looked at me as if I was an alien and said, what are you as a medical doctor doing in this, coming to try to go into this business? This business is a dying business. Just sell it and stick to your medical profession. So I guess the moral of this story is that you don't normally, or you must never always listen to your bank and your accountant. I read every book that I could have laid my hands on to teach myself business, from marketing to strategy to distribution. And then I approached my parents after about 6 years of reading every night from about 8 to 1. And I said to them that, look, if you really want to revive your father's name, I said to my mom, we have to move out of this under the house business We have to be different. We have to move from returnable glass bottles to one-way package. We have to build a new plant. But it needed $5 million investment. My parents mortgaged their home, took all their life savings, and gave it to me to start this new plant. Every night I went to bed, I knew that if I failed, my parents would lose everything. So quite honestly, failure was not on the cards. The rest is history. In 18 months, Jaleel went from 1% market share to 35% market share of the soft drink industry in Trinidad and Tobago. The second lifelong lesson: if you don't dream it, you can't do it. Belief governs behavior. As some of us would recall, in the late 1980s, we had a bad recession. And we had to move from inward looking to outward looking. We had to develop an export-oriented strategy. So we created at that time what we still use up to today, the onion ring strategy. The first layer was SM Jaleel Trinidad. The second layer was SM Jaleel Caribbean. The third layer was SM Jaleel Americas. And the fourth layer was SM Jaleel International. So we set about setting up our own distribution system throughout the region. Today we are truly pan-Caribbean, owning our own subsidiaries from Jamaica to Suriname. But we knew that we could not have a Me Too proposition if we wanted to truly become international and global. We knew that we had to create a unique proposition. We had to be different. We had to try to find a new market space, a market space that was never imagined. So we set about looking at all our major competitors, Coke and Pepsi worldwide. And we found that they were targeting the teenagers and the young adults. So obviously we couldn't follow them. We had to go and target kids. We found that they were in the cola business. We would have to go in the non-cola business, the flavor business. So we looked at the kids market. And eventually, after years, almost 2 years of a lot of research, we decided that we had to develop a new container that could fit snugly in the hands of kids and fit in a lunchbox. And that gave rise in 1993 to the Birth of Chubby. Today, Chubby, that bottle is patented in over 100 countries worldwide. It's a Jaleel creation. Chubby is sold in over 60 countries worldwide in 5 continents. Our vision, our strategic intent is to have it, God willing, in 80 to 100 countries by 2020, making it the first ever global beverage brand to be created from a developing world country. And in so doing, making Trinidad and Tobago famous for not only Calypso, Carnival, Callaloo, and cricket, but Calypso, Carnival, Callaloo, cricket, and Chubby. The third lifelong lesson: distance. The longest distance is a distance between the head and the heart. The distance between the ego and the spirit. Reflect as I ask these questions. Who am I? Do I really know who am I? What's my purpose in this world? Am I essentially a physical human being with an occasional spiritual experience? Or am I truly a spiritual being with a limited physical experience? We all would have seen the movie The Titanic or understand that the Titanic, the largest ship in the world at that time, the unsinkable ship, what sunk the Titanic? An iceberg. You see, only 20% of an iceberg is above water. 80% is below water. It is the 80% that was below water, that was invisible, that sunk the Titanic. A human being is like an iceberg. What we see, this appearance, this persona, this package is only 20%. It is the invisible part of us, our spirit, our soul, our heart, call it whatever you want. That's the true powerhouse. That is what makes us really human beings. But we spend most of our time in the workplace speaking to the persona and very little time speaking to the spirit. So 5 years ago, Jaleel developed what we term spirit-centered leadership. Spirit-centered leadership has three basic facets: beyond strategic intent to spiritual intent, beyond vision and mission to giving people a purpose in their life, to giving them something that is worthwhile, something that is meaningful, beyond Porter's economy of scale and scope and speed to economies of soul, aligning everybody within the organization, and beyond human capital to spiritual capital. Today we know that there's only one idea, leveraging of only one idea is creating wealth in the 21st century. Witness Google, Facebook, Apple. We spend so much time in developing our competencies at the expense of our character. But remember the good old saying, what is the sense of gaining this world but losing our soul? Is your company killing your spirit? Do you take your spirit to work? Or is there a sign at the entrance of your company that says, leave your spirit behind? One of the major problems in the workplace today is ego management. When your internal reference point is your ego, you seek to control and have power over people. Your actions are motivated by selfish reasons of greed, of envy, of hatred, of jealousy. It zaps the production and productive activity of the employees, resulting in low morale and motivation. Harvard Business Review have shown that 66% of the average worker spends their time in doing reworks. Why? Because of ego management. You see, when you manage by ego, you edge God out. But when your internal reference point is your spirit, your actions are motivated by love. You want for others what you want for yourself. You give of yourself freely, of your time, of your knowledge, of your money, because you see the world as a world of abundance, not a world of scarcity. Remember Deming, when he came up with a total quality management concept. And the American corporations did not take him on because they could not see the relationship between TQM and the bottom line and profitability. The Japanese did. And this is what caused the rise of global companies like Toyota. I really believe that spirit-centered leadership is going to be a very important factor and a critical success tool in the 21st century. And I urge you, if you have not done it as yet, to embrace it. You see, our spirit, it has no color. It has no religion. It has no race. It has no position. It has no title. It is just light. It is what makes us, in the eyes of God, all equal. My advice to the young aspiring entrepreneurs, if you would allow me to read what I said some 9 years ago when I got my honorary Doctors of Law degree from the University of the West Indies. This is a message I said to the fellow graduates, a message that I think today is very, very applicable, given what we are seeing in this beautiful country of ours. And I read now. When you travel the anti-spiritual path, do you really gain? With one moment of indiscretion, you risk tarnishing your character and career for the rest of your lives. We may escape the jail sentences through the services of sharp, expensive lawyers, but are we spared from our own conscience and society at large? Especially with a culture like ours, even if memories of our corrupt practices are waning, just wait for the coming carnival season. The Calypsonians will be certain to remind us. What I am therefore saying to you is that in the final analysis, it really is not worth it. All your dreams, visions, and hopes will be dashed for the rest of your lives. Make no mistake about it. There seems to be a myth still persistent that you cannot do business above board. Business ethics, therefore, is usually associated with negative, corrupt practices. Let me say this categorically. There is no reason why one cannot conduct business on the highest tenets of morality and fair play. But there's a way to do it. Stick to your spiritual principles and values. Let your actions and decisions be influenced and guided by these principles. Ethical conduct is possible in everything that you do, whatever profession you pursue. If we continue to live as we have been doing in the past, life will continue to be one big rat race. Within the confines of this race, in its present form, even though you win and are successful, you'll still be a rat. Is this what you really want in life? No, I do not really think that you want to be rats or that we wish to be so described. We are human beings created by God to serve Him and mankind. Let's stay focused on our ultimate purpose and execute it properly. This way we shall all be winners in this world and beyond. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I really believe that we can make a dent in this world. The future is up for grabs. Nobody owns the future. It is up to us to invent our own futures. Let us give our people the permission to dream. Let us create a social architecture where we could unleash the hidden potential in our people. Let us understand that the best way to win is to rewrite the rules. Let us understand that we all have divinity within us, and that God has created each and every one of us with a unique talent. Once we use this talent to serve humanity, then we can achieve whatever we want in this world. And I ask you, yield not to the temptation of placid mediocrity. For in a world of celebrities, non-entities, and notorieties, there is need and there is room for young men and young women of faith, of culture, and of reason. I thank you. God bless.